We're back with another video for Mr. Dan, Boy Wonder. I don't know if he'll ever see this, but we're going to see his video called The Many Retcons in the Ben 10 franchise. There are a few retcons, and it's crazy. I didn't really know what a retcon was until, like, I started looking at stuff with Ben 10, with, like, Ben 10 and them talking about retcons. But we're going to see all the retcons. If you're new around here, make sure you like and sub up if you like Ben 10. Man, I gotta see this. Maybe there's some I forgot about. I mean, I like Ben 10, but I don't think too deeply about it. So we're gonna see if Mr. Dan here gonna show us what the word is, man. Like I said, make sure you like and sub up if you like Ben 10, and let's see what Dan talking about, man. Dan, dang, Dan videos are pretty good too, man. I watched one last time and it was pretty good. So don't disappoint me, Dan. What retcons, man? Show me the retcons.
The plumbers and their frequent change in status, to Gwen and her magic being changed from a simple skill to then being hereditary, and of course the
Hereditary. Is that a word?
And his Osmosian background. Retcons are something that hit all long-running franchises. You take a pick of any long-running franchise you can think of, and it probably has a big retcon that the fans have a strong opinion about. After watching Totally Not Mark's video about Dragon Ball and its many retcons,
Totally Not Mark
told me that Ben 10 and Dragon Ball are very similar in this situation, with heavy retcons that have a lot of fans. Retcons are discussed heavily in the Ben 10 community.
Well, look at that mic. Look at Daniel, man. Hey, we're matching twins.
Frustration and just overall disapproval of many of these retcons.
Sorry.
I think the question of, are retcons really bad for a series, is a question
why he look like me
needs to be addressed when you speak about Ben 10.
If you agreed, you racist.
Any fan about any retcon, they're probably going on this big rant about how the many retcons in the Naruto's arc made it hard to sleep at night. And speaking of sleep, I want to thank today's sponsor, Manta Sleep. As someone who's
Daniel.
When it was time to
And you gave me it.
You gave me it. I was scared to even think about that.
How you give me it?
Or if you're going to that friend's house to like to sleep with the teacher script.
I wouldn't do that to Daniel, man. I'm leaving a life.
That imposes a different interpretation on previously described.
A piece of new information. I know what a retcon is, man. Daniel's the GOAT, man. Dan's the GOAT. I hope he sees this one day.
So things like
hit me up. We collab. Not really. Maybe.
Don't qualify as
I don't know. I'm not big enough.
Nor does something like feedback being introduced between Classic and Alien Force, as that just wouldn't make for a retcon, as it's not really new information that changes any mentioned events that came before his existence. He really just inserted into a vague area of the timeline. Also, to keep it simple for me, I'm only going to be discussing the more notable retcons in Ben 10, so I'm not going to be talking about any of the crew statements or the merchandise information or even the pop-up trivias that all end up getting retconned or retcon something else, because that's like its own little rabbit hole. So
right,
it can make for its own video if you guys want that.
Bro, is that Dragon Ball Z in the back? Bro, Dan's room is kind of crazy.
If you want that, that's the best way to tell me. Although I will mention that a few of them are going to come up in this video. By a few, I mean like maybe two, because I honestly did find a couple of them very interesting, and unfortunately for a classic, it doesn't have that many retcons. So just to give it some love, I took a little bit from there, I'm kind of like retconning my own video, like as we speak right now.
That's crazy.
Just one brand. And like I said, the classic series barely has any retcons, considering it was the first series, and it's kind of just the one that gets hit with the retcons instead of retconning things. But it still has a few interesting ones, like how the plumbers were stated to be all retired after Vilgax was defeated in the 70s. However, this was a retcon due to the fact that Joel and Camille, the couple who gets married in the episode Big Fat Alien Wedding, a mission that would have taken place years after their so-called retirement in the 70s. And I'm glad that this was changed, as it's nice for the plumbers to still sort of be active, even though we don't see that many active members in the show. I know I said Classic was forced to take retcon attacks from future series, but thanks to Destroy All Aliens coming out years after Classic, it did get the chance
Destroy All Aliens was cool.
As in Alien Force, Gwen says she never performed a tracking spell. When in Destroy All Aliens, she in fact does perform a tracking spell.
I can't pinpoint Ben with a locating spell. This is the last place I pick up any trace of his energy.
She did do
Some
that.
Extra classic retcons.
How did he get away with that?
The one time I'll mention it in this video, and the information includes how 6-6 was claimed to be an android on an info card until Secret of the Omnitrix showed that he's in fact not an android, but instead a living being called a Soteronican, who was mutated. Cannibal also had an info card that was retcon, as the info card implied that he was a volcanic Tortagon from Vulpin, the planet of Wildmutt's home species. But this was of course changed in the Big Tick to have Cannonball instead be an Albarian Palirota on the planet
A what?
Albaria. Well, it would have been cool to have Cannonball and Wildma be similar species who inhabit the same world. I much prefer Cannonball having his own species and
Cannonball don't even look like Wildlife, unless I'm tripping. I
like
never really looked that hard. Let me look.
They went extinct, funny enough. Now, Alien Force is
He
where the
don't.
retcons really started to roll in. As for some reason, Alien Force had a desire to take away basically every supernatural element in Classic and make it all alien. The first of which was changing the plumbers from a government organization made up of mainly humans to them now being an intergalactic space force made up of both humans and aliens. This also introduced
I didn't really notice that. I might be a bot.
Being the logo for the plumbers and the Galvin race, when in Classic it was just Asmon's way of just branding his technology and just his outfits, you know. It was like his odd future logo, if you get what I'm saying. Even though the plumbers go through more retcons in the universe, I will say that I prefer what Alien Force did with them over the other shows. I like the fact that they're basically space patrol, and including alien races into the organization makes more sense than them just being an entirely Earth-based operation. Now, while I like Alien Force's first big retcon, I can't say the same for its second and most popular retcon, with how they retcon Gwen and her magic. Classic treated Gwen's magic as a skill for her to learn and develop throughout that show, and we even see that she did.
Yeah, they did. I'm tripping. She did just have to learn it, but now it's like she's a part. She has that power. Is that? I guess that is a retcon, but it's like, it's kind of like, imagine your dad is LeBron James, and like you're just really good at basketball. You make it to the league. You do a DNA test, and you found out your dad is LeBron James. It's like, of course you're good at basketball, but you didn't know your dad was LeBron James until you got to the league and did a DNA test. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like she always had that in her to do magic, but she didn't know she was that until she found out. But it makes sense why she was able to do it. I'm gonna let Dan explain.
At it in Alien Force, but it was revealed in Alien Force that Gwen has some DNA from an energy-based alien species called Anodites who can manipulate mana, which is a magic in this universe, as all explained to her by the grandma Verdona. The whole magic alien race backstory for Gwen's magic is a retcon that the community still debates about today on whether or not it hurt or helped the franchise. And in my personal opinion, I did much prefer when Gwen didn't have these ties to magic, and instead it was just a smart and dedicated enough person to just learn it and get good at it. Also, Verdona herself is also a retcon, since in the movie Race Against Time, which was canon until Ultimate Alien basically blipped it out of existence, it was stated that their grandma had passed away in that movie, and Verdona being here is basically
that's a live action movie. That don't count.
That whole thing, but you know, it doesn't matter anyway. Cause like I said, Ultimate Alien basically just destroys any piece of canon validity Race Against Time has. Alien Force features a few smaller retcons, like changing Volcanus to being a buff hulking alien in Classic, to an Alien Force where he's just a small little guy in a big suit. Another retcon that I don't mind actually, because I enjoy Volcanus in UAF. In Classic, it is shown that Max doesn't know Kevin, which was slightly retcon, with Max being partners with Devin, Kevin's father, giving the Tennysons and Levin's.
Now that's different.
Some pre-existing,
because that was before he was
just
born.
Thinking about that whole backstory with Devin and Max, I really hope that they keep that piece of info, as Devin was so cool. I hope they don't try to say that it was like a false memory or something, you know, because that would be just lame as fuck to do.
Oh, this man's about to go in on Omniverse. Don't do him too hard, Dan. Don't do Omniverse too bad, man.
Also retcon Upchuck being able to eat normal food, as we see him drink a Mr.
What if there was a technology where humans could live like animals by pretending
Oh my god, when I get ads, I'm spamming ads.
Another controversial change Alien Force made was how the Omnitrix
Well, how many do they have?
The introduction of Primus. It was retcon that the Omnitrix does not contain the DNA, but is instead a receiver for the codon stream that contains all the DNA. I always disliked this retcon, though. It's always been like one of my least favorites, as I feel like it overly complicates the Omnitrix and its functions just for the sake of adding some forced new lore. I thankfully didn't have to tolerate the whole Primus codon stream for too long, as Ultimate Alien comes out with a retcon to it immediately, as it was stated that the codon stream on Primus contained DNA of every single sentient species, but we immediately see Ben scanned by Valvin's DNA to obtain the transformation, which is hilarious because I think that's like a little inside jab how even the writers knew that Primus was lame, but maybe that's just me being a hater. It's most likely me being a hater. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Ultimate Alien's most notable retcon all came from the Ben 10K Returns episode, where they make it so Race Against Time was basically no longer canon. Instead, it's now an alternate time.
I mean, Race Against Time is a live action movie. It wasn't canon. Am I tripping? I might be tripping.
Race Against Time was a Cronian, an alien race of people who could control time, but all that was retconned in his Ultimate Alien debut, where the Cronian species didn't exist at all, and Eon was instead an evil Ben from an alternate reality. Now, Race Against Time is definitely one of the movies to ever be made of all time. But even with that being said,
what did you just say?
The introduction of Eon and the whole Cronian
I'm not gonna go back.
was a piece of that movie that I actually did like. I mean, tell me a group of time-traveling aliens does not sound badass, bro. Especially when in Ultimate Alien, he came back looking like a cool-ass robot ninja. And sadly, this retcon just kind of soured mine and others' perception on Eon, which kind of sucks. I think he gets like done the worst out of like any of the real big bad villains in Ben 10. But I mean, fuck him, I guess. Ultimate Alien made a few small retcons to Kevin's powers. In Classic, he ended up turning into his mutated form due to rage and just lack of control over the power he absorbed. While in Ultimate Alien, they kind of changed it as when we see Kevin go to absorb the Ultimatrix, he comes out already.
Bro, look at that new episode logo.
Form, instead of having to cycle through the forms like he was shown to do in his first appearance and in the episode frame. Also, another small retcon in Ultimate Alien was in Classic, where Max says he met Verdun in St. Louis. This is now changed to have the. Now, I'm sure when you read the title and seen the word retcon and Ben 10, you immediately thought of Omniverse. And you wouldn't be wrong, guys. Omniverse definitely has some of the most mind-numbing, head-scratching, and kind of just random and overall most controversial retcons.
I need that jacket.
Weird things like change the pronunciation of Albedo's name from Albedo to Albedo.
Albedo, my former assistant. Albedo! Nice to see you have not lost your talent for stating the obvious.
One of Omniverse's smaller yet disappointing retcons, though, was the change to Ditto's powers. In Classic, all the Ditto clones shared pain. If one was hurt, all the other Dittos would feel it. But Omniverse
he didn't do that in Omniverse?
Independent beings. I really dislike this retcon as it made Ditto less unique as an alien, especially when compared to Echo. But I guess they kind of had to do that, as it wouldn't make sense for Ben to use him if he had this really core weakness. But it's just really upsetting, as Ditto was one of my favorite aliens, and it all just made him a less.
Ditto was
alien.
cool.
Speaking of aliens, Alien X got hit with a few small Omniverse retcons. In UAF, only 2 personalities had to agree, whereas in Omniverse, all 3 must agree, which added a stronger handicap to Alien X's powers. That was until we see Ben make Bellic and Serena basically give him the keys to the powers in that one episode, so make of that what you will. Ultimate Alien told us that celestial sapiens spend majority of their time debating.
I'm not.
R2.
How's he getting away with this?
I'm not.
R2.
I better get away with this when I post.
That they actively do other things, like change up the show's art style.
Celestial sapiens change the universe all the time. Even first thinker Asma's voice and appearance has changed on at
that was
least
funny.
3 occasions.
One of my favorite retcons from Omniverse is them changing Ultimate Ben from being Ben's quote-unquote true future to now making it Omniverse Ben 10K. As I believe that one was for the best, because no one likes Ultimate Ben, and that being Ben's real future overall was just kind of like fucking lame. I mean, nobody likes Ultimate Ben. Also, the plumbers suffer.
Ultimate Ben is a menace. I did a video about it. Well, not did a video, reacted to it.
Plumbers and intergalactic plumbers. They just served as separate factions until they eventually joined together. Omniverse once again though changes their symbol from the Omnitrix logo to this new red spot badge, and in my opinion, I much prefer the red spot over the Omnitrix symbol. Now, Omniverse introducing these 11-year-old Ben flashbacks, they were just bound to cause some retcons. And Alien Force Ben mentioned the last time he saw Vilgax was when he was 10.
He's more powerful than ever, and we barely used to beat him in the old days.
We were like 10 years old.
But in a flashback, we see that they had a run-in when he was in fact 11. These flashbacks cause even more issues.
Crazy.
To the episode from
and how's he playing these clips without? Bro, I better be able to post this.
We're confused to know that Cooper and Kevin knew each other, but this episode in Omniverse basically serves as the origin to their partnership that Ben and Gwen are present for. Secondly, Ben and Alien Force, he first met Kevin again, was the first time he witnessed Kevin's new power to absorb matter. Until this episode aired and showed that actually this is his first time witnessing it. The last of Omniverse's notable retcons,
the Omniverse got every retcon.
Arc, and mainly how Omniverse made it so Osmosians, the alien species that Kevin is a part of, don't actually exist. The term Osmosian now refers to a subspecies of human with a unique genetic component that gives them powers that vary between individuals, rather than them being a different species of human like aliens with absorption powers. Cervantes, the main villain in this arc, also says that the memories of Devin Levin that Max had were all just fake and fabricated. This large retcon to such a rich part of the world still causes so much discussion today, as people are still upset about it. And I, for one, happen to be one of those people upset. I enjoyed the Osmosian lore a lot in UAF and everything that they were doing to build it up. Especially when Igor came into play, adding more to it. And for Omniverse to basically Thanos snap it out of existence is definitely frustrating. This episode also changed the backstory for Helen.
So wait, does that mean Agrigor was just a figment of their imagination? No, because they fought him. I'm tripping. Osmosian is a
They are
figment.
said to be half human, half alien hybrids due to them having alien parents.
So we're all alien?
Kinda. One of your parents must have been human.
That's still crazy.
Not so much.
How are you
The
allowed to play
Rooter's
this?
episode changes that as well, making it so that they were in fact born human, but just had their DNA fused with alien DNA. The hard retcons the Rooter's arc makes to the Plumber's helpers, and especially to the Osmosians, are really the main culprit when you think of bad retcons in Ben 10. And yes, to me, these retcons are definitely unnecessary, but I don't think these or any of the other controversial retcons mean that they are really bad as a whole. I think us Ben 10 fans have let a few bad apples spoil the bunch. Many of the retcons I stated in the video, I believe, were for the better of the franchise. The Plumbers are constantly retconned, yet I think all of the retcons that they suffered were for the better. Turning them from Earth-based to intergalactic to then being stated to just be both the entire time, all made for really good changes. I don't know anyone who actually liked the idea of Primus, so it being retconned to just be a thing in the background instead of a soul where the Omnitrix operates as DNA was also for the better. But of course, for every good retcon, like the Plumbers, you of course have your bad ones like the Gwen and Magic retcon, or you know, the big Osmosian one. I think the fact that the major retcons all being controversial just boils down to the fact that they affect two important characters like Kevin and Gwen, so that was just destined to bring them in a lot of hate. I believe that hate for retcons are justified to some degree, and criticism of them are definitely valid, but I don't believe they're always this bad thing for a franchise. I mean, Ben 10 is a long-running series, so not everything was planned out, and not everything was the best idea when looking back on.
See,
so
Dan's using logic,
kind of inevitable when it came to the series, but that doesn't excuse their lack of pleasure at all. If I had it my way, I would definitely make it so some of these things weren't changed at all, as I don't agree with every single retcon. But to be honest, I only give a retcon when it kills my enjoyment of a show, and Ben 10 doesn't really have one that does. I dislike the changes to Kevin and Gwen, but it never dampened my enjoyment for the characters or any story.
And that's what really matters. Did you still enjoy Ben 10? I ain't never looked at Ben 10 and was like, man, turn this off. They don't retcon. Like, that's what it comes down to. You can't take the show too serious. But for this video, Dan, this is a good video. He has to for this video. But I'm pretty sure Dan has never looked at his TV when he was like, I don't know how old Dan is. Is Dan 30? Is he pushing 30? Is he 40? I don't know. He ain't never looked at his screen and was like, Ben retcon this. I'm turning this off.
Involved in. Hell, I actually really enjoyed the Rooter's arc, even with the retcons, which is definitely probably a hot take. But Ben 10 has a lot of retcons. Some good, some bad, some unnecessary, and some just flat out stupid. And funny enough, there are a lot more retcons to take into account if I did include the pop-up trivia, the crew statement, the merchandise info. So if you want a part 2, hit that like button. Show the video some love if y'all want a part 2.
All right, Dan. That was another good video, man. I thought you was going to troll. All right, make sure y'all like and sub up as well to me too, man. If you suggest any other Ben 10 reactions or anything related to that, and I'll catch y'all next time, man. Good video, Dan.